Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the stars streak past through the main screen. His ship was moving faster than light, jumping between solar systems like a stone skipping across water. The crew called it riding the quantum wave, but Jake just called it amazing. The Defiant was not like other ships in space. While most alien vessels looked smooth and perfect, the human ship looked rough and patched together. Pipes ran along the walls, exposed wires sparked sometimes, and the engines made strange noises that worried other species. But Jake loved his ship. She was tough, smart, and always found a way to keep going. Captain called Tom from the navigation station. "We're coming up on the Kepler 442 system. Should we drop out of light speed?" Jake nodded. "Take us out of jump, Tom. Let's see what's waiting for us." The stars stopped moving, and space became still again. In front of them was a yellow sun, with several planets orbiting around it. The third planet looked green and blue. It had water and maybe life. "Run a full scan," Jake ordered. "I want to know everything about this system." Lisa, the science officer, worked at her station. Numbers and pictures filled her screen. "Captain, I'm reading strange energy patterns from the fourth planet. It's covered in metal structures, but they're old. Really old." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The fourth planet was red and rocky, but Lisa was right. Metal buildings covered the surface like a giant city, but they looked empty and broken. "Any life signs?" Jake asked. "None," Lisa replied. "But the technology is advanced. More advanced than anything we've seen before. This was why the Galactic Council called human ships dangerous. Other species followed rules. They asked permission before exploring new places. They waited for approval before studying unknown technology. But humans were curious. They saw something interesting and went to investigate. "Set course for the fourth planet," Jake ordered. "We're going to take a closer look." The Defiant moved toward the mysterious world. As they got closer, the metal structures became clearer. They were huge towers and bridges, all connected together like a giant web, but everything was dark and empty. "Captain," said Mike from the communication station, "I'm picking up a signal. It's weak, but it's definitely artificial." "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked. Mike worked for several minutes adjusting dials and pressing buttons. Slowly, the signal became stronger. It was not words or music. It was numbers and patterns repeating over and over. "It's a warning," Lisa said suddenly. She had been studying the signal on her own screen. "The patterns, they're showing star maps, and there are symbols that mean danger." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Warning about what?" Before Lisa could answer, the ship's alarm began ringing. Red lights flashed on the bridge. "Captain," Tom shouted from his station, "3 ships just appeared on our sensors. They're big, and they're moving fast toward us." Jake looked at the main screen. 3 massive ships were approaching. They were sleek and silver with no visible weapons, but they moved with purpose and speed. "Any idea who they are?" Jake asked. "Checking the database now," Mike replied. He worked quickly, comparing the ship designs to known alien species. "Got it. They're KE Dominion vessels. And Captain, they're not here to say hello." Jake knew about the K. They were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They controlled hundreds of worlds and had rules for everything. They believed that order and control were the most important things in the universe. "Incoming transmission," Mike announced. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen changed to show a tall, thin alien. Its skin was gray and smooth, and its eyes were large and black. When it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council Protocol 447. You are exploring restricted space without proper authorization. You will cease your activities immediately and return to your home system." Jake stood up straight. "This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earthship Defiant. We're conducting peaceful exploration in unclaimed space. We haven't violated any treaties." The alien's expression did not change. "Human activities are unpredictable and dangerous. Your species does not follow proper procedures. You investigate things that should be left alone. You ask questions that should not be asked." "Since when is curiosity a crime?" Jake replied. "Since it threatens the stability of civilized space," the alien answered. "You will depart immediately, or we will remove you by force." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was ready for whatever came next. Tom had his hand on the weapons controls. Lisa was recording everything for Earth's databases. Mike was monitoring the KE ships for any signs of aggression. "We're not leaving," Jake said firmly. "We have the right to explore free space." The alien was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke again. "Human, you do not understand. Your species is young and reckless. You do not see the bigger picture. There are things in this universe that must be controlled. There are secrets that must be kept. Your people threaten that control." "What secrets?" Jake demanded. "What are you so afraid of?" The alien cut the transmission. The screen went black. "Captain," Tom said urgently, "the KE ships are powering up their weapons." Jake sat back in his captain's chair. This was the moment that would change everything. He could order a ship to retreat, to follow the K demands, and return to, say, Earth. It would be the safe choice, the smart choice. But that's not what humans did. "Lisa, are you still recording the signal from the planet?" Jake asked. "Yes, Captain. I'm getting everything." "Good. Send it all to Earth immediately. Include our location and what the Kaith just told us." "Transmission sent," Lisa confirmed. Jake turned to Tom. "Charge the weapons and raise shields. If they want to fight, we'll give them one." The Defiant was smaller than the Kath ships, but it was fast and tough. Human engineering was different from alien technology. Where other species built ships to be perfect and efficient, humans built ships to survive and adapt. Captain Mike said, "I'm reading energy buildup on all 3 KET vessels. They're about to fire." Jake gripped his chair arms. "Tom, evasive maneuvers. Lisa, keep scanning that planet. Whatever secret they're protecting down there, we're going to find out what it is." The first KET ship fired. A beam of bright blue energy shot toward the Defiant. Tom spun the ship hard to the left, and the beam missed by a few hundred meters. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The Defiant's weapons lit up space with red plasma bolts. They struck the lead K ship, causing its shields to flicker and spark. "Direct hit," Tom reported. "Their shields are down to 60%, but the other 2 KE ships were firing now." The Defiant shook as energy beams hit its hull. Sparks flew from control panels and the lights flickered. "Shields down to 40%, Mike called out. Jake knew they couldn't win this fight with firepower alone. The Kaith had bigger ships and more weapons. But humans had something the KET didn't understand. They were unpredictable. "Lisa, what's the status on that planet signal?" "Still recording, Captain, but I'm getting something else now. The energy patterns are changing. It's like the planet is responding to our presence or to the battle," Jake realized. "Tom, take us closer to the planet. Stay between us and the KE ships." "That's dangerous, Captain. If we get too close to those structures, do it," Jake ordered. The Defiant dove toward the mysterious world. The Keth ships followed, still firing. But as they got closer to the planet, something strange happened. The metal structures began to glow. "Captain," Lisa said with excitement in her voice, "the planet's technology is activating. It's like it's been waiting for someone to find it, or waiting for the right circumstances." Jake said he had a crazy idea. "Tom, can you put us in orbit around the planet, right above the largest structure?" "Yes, but the Keth will have a clear shot at us. That's what I'm counting on," Jake said with a grim smile. The Defiant dropped into low orbit. The Kath ships followed, positioning themselves to attack, but as they prepared to fire their final shots, the planet's ancient technology suddenly came fully online. A massive energy pulse erupted from the surface, washing over all 4 ships. The KE vessels were caught completely off guard. Their weapons powered down, their engines stopped, and they began to drift helplessly in space. But the Defiant was still running. Human technology was chaotic and unpredictable. Just like humans themselves, the ancient energy pulse couldn't shut down systems that didn't follow logical patterns. "Now I understand," Jake said quietly. "This isn't just about us being dangerous. It's about us being free." The planet below was sending a new signal now. Not a warning this time, but information. Data about the KET Dominion, about their secret wars, about the species they had destroyed for being too unpredictable. Jake looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. They had stumbled onto something big, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. But first, they had to survive. "Lisa, get all this data to Earth. Everything we've learned about the K and this planet." "Already on it, Captain." Jake stared at the disabled Keth ships. He knew they would recover soon, and when they did, they would be very angry. The Defiant had proven that humans were more than just dangerous. They were a threat to everything that Keth believed in. Tom, as soon as their systems come back online, we're going to have company. Get us ready to run. Where to, Captain? Jake smiled. Home. We need to warn Earth about what's coming. As the ancient technology's pulse faded, the KE ships began to stir. Their engines sparked back to life and their weapons started to charge again. But by then, the Defiant was already gone, jumping back into light speed and racing toward Earth with the most important message in human history. The Cath had called them dangerous. Now they were about to find out just how dangerous humans could really be. The Defiant had been running for 3 days. Jake Miller sat in his captain's chair, watching the stars fly by on the main screen. His ship was fast, but the KET were faster. They had been chasing him since the incident at the ancient planet. Captain, Tom called from the navigation station. The K ships are gaining on us. They'll be in weapons range in about an hour. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. His crew had been working around the clock trying to stay ahead of their pursuers. But the K had more ships now. What started as 3 vessels had become an entire fleet. How many are there? Jake asked. 15 ships. Lisa replied from her science station. All of them bigger than us. And Captain, they're not trying to capture us anymore. Their weapon signatures show full combat readiness. Jake understood what that meant. The KE weren't planning to arrest them or force them to surrender. They wanted to destroy the Defiant and everyone on board. Any word from Earth? Jake asked Mike at communications. Nothing yet, Captain. The data package we sent should have reached them by now, but it's too far to receive a reply. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was tired but determined. They had discovered something important about the KE, and now they were paying the price for it. But none of them regretted their choice to investigate. Captain, Tom said urgently, the K fleet just jumped to light speed. They're trying to get ahead of us. They want to cut us off, Jake realized. Lisa, scan for any nearby systems where we can hide. Lisa worked at her station, but after a few minutes, she shook her head. There's nothing, Captain. The nearest star system is 2 days away, and it's in the direction the KE are heading. Jake made a decision. Drop us out of light speed. We'll make our stand here. In empty space, Tom asked. Better than being trapped in a gravity well, Jake replied. At least here we can maneuver. The Defiant dropped back into normal space. Around them was nothing but darkness and distant stars. It was a lonely place to fight, but it was their choice. Within minutes, the Keith fleet appeared. 15 massive ships arranged themselves in a perfect attack formation. They were beautiful in their own way, sleek, silver, and deadly. The lead ship opened communications. The same gray alien from before appeared on screen, but this time his expression was different. Before he had seemed cold and official. Now he looked angry. Captain Miller, the alien said, you have seen things that were not meant for your species. You have data that threatens the stability of the galaxy. This ends now. We're explorers, Jake replied. We were just investigating an abandoned planet. We didn't hurt anyone. You hurt the natural order, the alien said. Your species does not understand the responsibilities that come with knowledge. You are chaos, given form. You cannot be allowed to spread your influence. What are you so afraid of? Jake demanded. What did we find on that planet that scares you so much? The alien was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke in a voice filled with certainty. Evidence of our mistakes. Proof that we are not as perfect as we claim to be. Your species would use this knowledge to challenge our authority. Maybe your authority needs to be challenged, Jake said. The alien cut the transmission. A moment later, all 15K ships opened fire. The space around the Defiant lit up with deadly energy. Blue beams and plasma bolts filled the darkness. Jake's ship spun and twisted, trying to avoid the barrage. Shields down to 70%. Mike shouted over the noise of alarms. Return fire, Jake ordered. Target their lead ship. The Defiant's weapons blazed, sending red plasma bolts at the KE formation. But one small ship against 15 large ones was not a fair fight. For every hit they scored, the KE landed 10. Captain, Lisa yelled. Hull breach on Deck 5. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we're losing atmosphere. Jake felt his ship shudder under the constant bombardment. The Kith weren't just trying to destroy them quickly. They were taking their time, systematically targeting each system. They're not just attacking us, Jake realized. They're dissecting us. They want to see how our technology works before they finish us off. Another volley of energy beams struck the Defiant. This time, the ship's lights flickered and went out for several seconds. When they came back on, half the control panels were sparking. Shields down to 30%. Mike reported. Weapons are offline. Main engines are failing. Jake looked at his crew. They were all injured now. Tom had a cut on his forehead from a falling cable. Lisa's station was smoking from an overload. Mike was holding his arm where a piece of debris had hit him, but they were still fighting. Atlas, Jake called to the ship's AI. What's our status? The computer's voice was calm despite the chaos around them. Captain, structural integrity is at 40% and falling. Life support is operating at reduced capacity. Weapon systems are offline and cannot be repaired with current resources. How long do we have? At current damage rates, the ship will be destroyed in approximately 8 minutes. Jake closed his eyes. 8 minutes. Not enough time to escape. Not enough time to repair their weapons. Not enough time to call for help. But maybe enough time for one last act of defiance. Atlas, can you override the safety protocols on the quantum drive? The AI paused. Captain, that would cause a cascade failure. The explosion would destroy this ship and anything within a 5-kilometer radius, including that lead K ship. If we get close enough, Jake said. His crew turned to look at him. They understood what he was suggesting. It was suicide, but it might be their only chance to strike back. Captain, Tom said quietly, my wife is expecting our first child next month. I know, Jake replied. Lisa, you were supposed to start your doctorate program when we got back to Earth. Yes, sir, Lisa said with tears in her eyes. Mike, you were going to propose to Anna when we returned. Mike nodded, unable to speak. Jake looked at each of them. I'm not ordering anyone to stay. The escape pods are still functional. You can abandon ship. Tom was the first to respond. With respect, Captain, go to hell. Lisa laughed despite everything. We're not leaving you, Jake. We're in this together. Mike wiped his eyes and turned back to his station. Besides, someone needs to make sure this data gets to Earth. Atlas, can you boost the transmission array? Affirmative. I can route power from the failing life support systems. Jake felt a surge of pride in his crew. This was what made humans dangerous. Not their weapons or their technology, but their willingness to sacrifice everything for what they believed in. Tom set course for the lead Kothas ship. Full impulse. Aye, Captain. It's been an honor serving with you. The Defiant turned toward its target. The Cath seemed to realize what was happening because their fire intensified. Energy beams tore through the ship's hull, starting fires in multiple sections. Hull breach on deck 3, Lisa reported. Fire spreading through the forward compartments. Abandon the forward sections, Jake ordered. Seal all bulkheads. The ship was burning now. Jake could smell smoke on the bridge. The KE were literally setting his ship on fire, just as they had planned all along. 2 kilometers to target, Tom announced. Atlas, prepare for quantum drive overload, Jake commanded. Captain, the AI said, I want you to know that serving with this crew has been an honor. I will ensure the data reaches Earth. Thank you, Atlas. Send the message. The AI's transmission was powerful, boosted by energy from the dying ship. It shot out into space, carrying everything they had learned about the KE and their secret war against unpredictable species. 1 kilometer to target, Tom said. The lead Kaith ship was trying to move away, but it was too late. The Defiant was coming too fast, driven by the last of its failing engines. Atlas, execute quantum overload. Overload initiated. Cascade failure in 5 seconds. Jake looked at his crew one more time. Tell me something good. Lisa smiled through her tears. The data transmission reached Earth. They know everything now. That's all we needed, Jake said. The Defiant struck the Keth ship, just as its quantum drive exploded. The explosion was visible from several light-years away, a brilliant flash that lit up the darkness of space. When the light faded, both ships were gone. But the remaining KE ships had a problem. Their flagship was destroyed. Their admiral was dead. And somewhere in the darkness of space, a human transmission was racing toward Earth. The KE had won the battle, but they had no idea what was coming next. On Earth, The data package arrived at the Global Defense Network headquarters. Scientists and military officers gathered around screens, reading the final transmission from the Defiant. The message was clear. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy, and they had just made a very powerful enemy. But Jake Miller and his crew had done more than just deliver a warning. They had shown the Kaith something terrifying, that humans would rather die fighting than live in fear. The Kaith called them dangerous. Now they were about to learn just how dangerous a species could be when it had nothing left to lose. In the weeks that followed, the Kaith would make their next move. They would target Jake's family, thinking that destroying his loved ones would send a message to Earth. They had no idea that this single act would wake up something in humanity that had been sleeping since they first reached for the stars. The age of human exploration was about to end. The age of human war was about to begin. High Admiral Vex of the Kaith Dominion sat in his command chair, looking at the report from the destroyed human ship. The battle had cost them their flagship and nearly 200 crew members, but the threat was eliminated. The troublesome human vessel was nothing but space dust now, a minor inconvenience, Vex said to his second-in-command. One small ship causing so much trouble. Humans are even more chaotic than our report suggested. Commander Nix nodded in agreement. Should we send more ships to monitor the human home system, Admiral? Vex waved a dismissive hand. Unnecessary. What can one primitive species do against the might of the Keth Dominion? We have eliminated thousands of species over the centuries. Humans are no different. The truth was, the Keith had been expanding across the galaxy for over 1 million years. They had perfected the art of conquest through careful planning and overwhelming force. When they encountered a species that showed signs of being unpredictable or chaotic, they eliminated them quickly and efficiently. Humans were just the latest in a long line of species that had to be removed for the greater good of galactic order. Besides, Vex continued, it will take the humans decades to develop space travel capable of reaching our territory. By then, we will have consolidated our recent conquests and expanded our fleet. This was how the K operated. They would identify a threat eliminated decisively, then return to their normal routines while their empire digested the new territory. It was a system that had worked for millennia. Prepare the hibernation chambers, Vex ordered. We have earned our rest. The Kaes were a species that hibernated after major military campaigns. It was both a biological need and a cultural tradition. After the stress of battle, their bodies required months of deep sleep to recover fully. What about patrols along the border? Commander Nix asked. Leave a skeleton crew, Vex replied. A few ships to watch for any signs of human activity. But I doubt we'll see anything from them for many years, if ever. Within a week, most of the KE military leadership had entered hibernation. Their massive ships drifted in space, powered down to minimal systems. Only a handful of junior officers remained awake to monitor their territory. The KE called it the victory sleep, a time of rest and celebration. After successfully eliminating another chaotic species, they had done it so many times before that it had become routine. But they had made a critical mistake. They assumed that humans were like every other species they had encountered, slow to respond, limited in their technology, and easily intimidated. They had no idea that Jake Miller's final transmission was already causing chaos on Earth. General Sarah Chen stood in the war room of the Global Defense Network, staring at the holographic display showing Jake's final message. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and government officials from every nation on Earth. Play it again, she ordered. The message began once more. Jake's voice was calm despite the explosions and alarms in the background of his ship. This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earth vessel Defiant. We have encountered a hostile alien species called the Keth Dominion. They consider humanity a threat to galactic stability because we are unpredictable. They have destroyed our ship and are planning to eliminate our entire species. The hologram showed the data Jake had collected, star maps, KET ship designs, and most importantly, evidence of their systematic genocide campaigns. The KE have done this before, Jake's voice continued. They've destroyed dozens of intelligent species across the galaxy, all in the name of maintaining order. They see us as chaos that needs to be eliminated. General Chen paused the message and looked around the room. How long ago did we receive this? 18 hours, replied Dr. Martinez, the head of the space program. Our long-range scanners have detected no immediate threats, but that doesn't mean much. According to this data, the KE have technology far beyond ours. What about Captain Miller's family? Asked Admiral Brooks. Have they been notified? His wife Emma and their twin children are living on Haven Colony. General Chen replied, "We've sent a message, but it'll take time to reach them. The colony is 3 weeks away by our fastest ships." President Williams leaned forward at the conference table. "General, what are our options?" Chen brought up a new display, showing Earth's military capabilities. "Honestly, Mr. President, we're not prepared for this kind of threat. Our space fleet consists of 12 exploration vessels and 6 military patrol ships. The KE, according to this data, have thousands of ships. So, we surrender?" asked Senator Lopez. "Like hell we do," Admiral Brooks replied firmly. "Captain Miller died getting us this information. We're not going to waste his sacrifice." Dr. Martinez stood up and walked to the display. "Actually, we might have more advantages than we think. Look at this data carefully. The KE technology is advanced, but it's also predictable. Their ships all follow the same basic design patterns. Their weapons all use similar energy signatures." "What's your point?" General Chen asked. "My point is that they're used to fighting species that think like they do. Logical, orderly, predictable. But humans don't think that way. We're chaotic, creative, and we adapt quickly." President Williams nodded. "What do you need?" "Time," Dr. Martinez replied, "and resources. If we can reverse engineer some of their technology from Captain Miller's scans, we might be able to develop countermeasures." "How much time?" Admiral Brooks asked. 6 months minimum. A year would be better." General Chen looked at the star maps showing Cath territory. According to this data, their nearest major base is 8 months away at maximum speed. If they decide to attack Earth directly, we'll have warning. "What if they don't attack directly?" Senator Lopez asked. "What if they target our colonies first?" The room fell silent. Earth had 17 colony worlds scattered across nearby star systems. Most of them had small populations and minimal defenses. "We need to warn them all," President Williams decided. "And we need to start building a real space fleet." Over the next few days, Earth transformed. What had been a peaceful planet, focused on exploration and scientific advancement, became a world preparing for war. Factories that had been building civilian spacecraft were converted to military production. Scientists who had been studying distant stars began developing new weapons. The change wasn't just technological, it was cultural. Humans had always been explorers, but now they were becoming soldiers. Dr. Martinez worked around the clock with his team, analyzing every piece of data from the Defiant. They learned about Keth's shield technology, their faster-than-light engines, and their plasma weapons. "The key is their overconfidence," Dr. Martinez explained to the military commanders. "They've been the dominant species for so long that they can't imagine being challenged. Look at their ship designs. They're built for overwhelming firepower, not for fighting an unpredictable enemy." General Chen studied the tactical analysis. "What kind of unpredictable? Human unpredictable?" Dr. Martinez smiled. "We don't follow their rules. We don't fight the way they expect. We improvise, we adapt, and we never give up." Meanwhile, the Global Defense Network began implementing Project Hornet's Nest, a plan to prepare Earth for an alien invasion. Every major city was equipped with orbital defense platforms. Military bases were built on the Moon and Mars. Most importantly, humanity began building a new type of spacecraft. The new ships didn't look like anything the Caith had ever seen. Where alien vessels were smooth and symmetrical, human ships were angular and aggressive. They carried weapons that violated conventional physics and defensive systems that defied logic. But the most important change was happening in the minds of humanity. For the first time in centuries, the entire species was united against a common threat. National boundaries became meaningless. Political differences were set aside. Religious conflicts were forgotten. Jake Miller had given them more than just intelligence about the enemy. He had given them purpose. 3 months after receiving his message, Earth launched its first squadron of military vessels. They were fast, heavily armed, and crewed by volunteers who understood that they might not come home. 6 months after the battle, humanity had built a fleet of over 100 warships. They were still outnumbered by the KE, but they had something their enemy didn't expect: the willingness to fight dirty. While the Kaith slept peacefully in their hibernation chambers, confident that they had eliminated another minor threat, humanity was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. An entire species motivated by grief, united by purpose, and absolutely determined to make their enemies pay for what they had done. The Kath had called humans dangerous because they were unpredictable. They had no idea just how dangerous humans could become when they had nothing left to lose. Admiral Vex and his commanders continued their short nap, dreaming of past victories and future conquests. They assumed they had months, maybe years, before humanity could pose any real threat. They were wrong. The hornet's nest was stirring, and when it finally erupted, the Keth were going to discover what happened when you killed a human's family. Emma Miller stood in her garden on Haven Colony, watching her 8-year-old twins play among the flowers. The morning sun felt warm on her face, and she could hear the sounds of the small farming community waking up around her. It had been 7 months since Jake's ship had gone missing. 7 months since the last transmission from the Defiant. The official report said, lost in deep space exploration. But Emma knew her husband better than that. Jake would have found a way to send word if he was still alive. Mom called out. Ben, her son, look what Anna found. Emma walked over to where her daughter was kneeling by the vegetable patch. Anna held up a small, colorful bug with delicate wings. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Emma said, kneeling down beside them. But we should let it go back to its family. Anna gently released the bug, watching it fly away. Do you think Dad found bugs like this on other planets? Emma's heart ached. She had tried to explain to the children that their father might not be coming home, but they still asked about him every day. I'm sure he did, Emma replied. Your father loved discovering new things. The peaceful moment was interrupted by a loud rumbling sound from the sky. Emma looked up to see 3 large silver ships descending through the clouds. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Sleek, metallic, and clearly not human in design. Mom, what are those? Ben asked, pointing at the ships. Emma felt a cold fear in her stomach. Haven Colony was far from Earth's main shipping routes. They rarely had visitors and never ships like these. Children, go inside the house. Now, Emma said firmly. But Mom, now she repeated, her voice sharp with urgency. The twins ran toward their small farmhouse, while Emma watched the alien ships land in the field outside the colony. Other families were coming out of their homes, pointing and talking in confused voices. Mayor Davidson came running up to Emma. Mrs. Miller, have you ever seen ships like that before? No, Emma replied. But I have a bad feeling about this. Group of tall, gray-skinned aliens emerged from the ships. They moved with purpose, carrying strange weapons that glowed with blue energy. The leader was taller than the others, with large black eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Citizens of this human settlement, the alien announced in a cold, mechanical voice. We are the Keth Dominion. We are looking for the family of Captain Jake Miller. Emma's blood went cold. Somehow these aliens knew Jake's name. I don't know who you're talking about, Mayor Davidson said, stepping forward. This is a peaceful farming colony. We don't have any military personnel here. The alien leader turned its dark eyes toward the mayor. Do not lie to us, human. Our records show that Emma Miller and her offspring live in this settlement. You will bring them to us immediately. Emma wanted to run, but she knew it was too late. The aliens had already spotted her standing near the town center. There, one of the aliens said, pointing at Emma. That is the female from our records. The leader walked toward Emma with slow, deliberate steps. You are Emma Miller, maid of Captain Jake Miller. Yes, Emma said, lifting her chin defiantly. What do you want? Your mate was a fool, the alien replied. He interfered with KE operations. He stole classified information. He destroyed one of our ships. Emma felt a surge of pride mixed with grief. Jake had died fighting these creatures. He was a good man, she said. He was trying to protect innocent people. He was chaos, the alien said coldly. And chaos must be eliminated completely. We cannot allow his genetic line to continue. His offspring might carry his unpredictable nature. The other colonists began to understand what was happening. Mayor Davidson stepped between Emma and the aliens. You can't just kill innocent people, he shouted. These are civilians, children. The alien leader barely glanced at him. Your species' attachment to emotional concepts like innocence is precisely why you are dangerous. Children grow into adults. Adults spread chaos. One of the other aliens raised its weapon and fired a blue beam at Mayor Davidson. He screamed once and then collapsed, his body smoking. The colonists began to panic. Some ran toward their homes. Others tried to hide behind buildings. But the K had positioned their forces strategically. There was nowhere to run. Bring the offspring, the leader commanded. 2 aliens moved toward Emma's house. She tried to run after them, but another alien grabbed her arm with crushing strength. "Ben! Anna!" Emma screamed. "Hide! Run!" But it was too late. The aliens dragged her children out of the house. Ben was crying and Anna was trying to be brave, but Emma could see the terror in her daughter's eyes. "Please," Emma begged. "They're just children. They haven't done anything wrong. They carry Jake Miller's genetic code," the alien leader said matter-of-factly. "That makes them potentially dangerous. The Keth Dominion does not take chances with chaos." Emma struggled against the alien holding her, but its grip was like iron. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," the leader replied. "This is not about obtaining something. This is about sending a message." The alien raised a small device and began speaking into it. Emma realized with horror that it was recording. "Citizens of Earth," the alien said to the device, "this is what happens to those who oppose the Keth Dominion. Your Captain Jake Miller thought he could defy galactic order. He was wrong. Now his genetic line pays the price." The alien gestured to its soldiers. "Begin the demonstration." What happened next would haunt the galaxy for generations. The Keith didn't just kill Emma and her children quickly. They made it slow, methodical, and visible to the recording device. They wanted Earth to see exactly what happened to families of humans who dared to resist. Emma's last thoughts were not of fear or pain, but of pride in her husband, and hope that somehow, somewhere, someone would make these monsters pay for what they had done. When the Keith finished with the Miller family, they turned their weapons on the rest of the colony. Over 300 innocent farmers, teachers, and children were killed in what the KE called a cleansing operation. The entire massacre was recorded and broadcast across Keth space as a warning to other species. The message was clear. This is what happens when you challenge the natural order. But the KE made a critical error. Their broadcast was designed to be transmitted only within their own territory. But human intelligence networks had been quietly monitoring KE communications for months. The signal was intercepted by a listening post on Proxima Station. General Chen was in a strategy meeting when the emergency alert came through. The holographic display in the war room suddenly activated, showing the horrific recording from Haven Colony. The room fell silent as they watched Emma Miller's final moments. Hardened military officers who had seen combat across the galaxy found themselves unable to speak. When the recording ended, the silence stretched for nearly a minute. "How long ago did this happen?" General Chen asked quietly. 6 hours, replied Lieutenant Torres, his voice barely a whisper. "The signal just reached us." Admiral Brooka stood up slowly, his face pale with rage. "Those bastards! They didn't just kill soldiers, they murdered children. This changes everything," President Williams said over the communication link from Earth. "The K aren't just conquerors, they're genocidal monsters." Dr. Martinez was staring at the tactical display, showing the location of Haven Colony. "They're not just trying to eliminate military threats. They're trying to wipe out human genetics entirely." General Chen looked around the room at her officers. She saw the same expression on every face, cold, calculating fury. "Gentlemen," she said calmly, "I believe our plans have just changed." "What do you mean?" Admiral Brooks asked. "I mean, we're not just defending ourselves anymore," Chen replied. "We're going to wipe the Keth Dominion off the face of the galaxy." The recording of the Haven Colony massacre was transmitted to every human military base, every colony, and every ship in space. Within hours, it had been seen by every human being in existence. The reaction was immediate and universal. Humans across the galaxy stopped what they were doing and enlisted in the military. Pacifist colonies that had never had armies began building weapons. Scientists abandoned their research to work on military projects. But most importantly, the massacre had awakened something primal in the human species. For the first time in their history, every human being shared the same goal: complete, and total revenge. The KE had wanted to send a message about what happened to chaotic species who opposed them. The message was received. Now humanity was going to send a message of their own. Admiral Vex and his officers were still sleeping peacefully in their hibernation chambers, unaware that their demonstration had just turned a defensive species into an offensive one. They had thought that killing Jake Miller's family would break human spirit. Instead, they had just guaranteed their own extinction. The age of Keth dominance was about to end. The age of human fury was about to begin. High Admiral Vex woke from his hibernation to the sound of alarm, screaming throughout his flagship. His body felt heavy and slow as he climbed out of the sleeping chamber, but his mind quickly became alert when he saw the panic on his bridge. "Report," Vex commanded as he took his command chair. Commander Nix rushed to his side, his gray face pale with fear. "Admiral, we're under attack. Multiple human fleets have appeared simultaneously across 17 of our systems." Vex stared at his subordinate in disbelief. "That's impossible. The humans don't have the technology for coordinated multi-system attacks." "Sir, they do now," Nix replied, bringing up the tactical display. The holographic screen showed the nightmare that Vex had never imagined possible. Hundreds of human ships were appearing throughout Keth's base, not randomly, but in perfect coordination. They struck military bases, government centers, and fleet formations with surgical precision. "How many ships?" Vex asked. "Over 2,000, sir, and they're not like the vessel we destroyed. These are purpose-built warships, designed specifically to fight us." Vex looked at the ship designs on his screen. The human vessels were angular and aggressive, bristling with weapons that his sensors couldn't identify. They moved with deadly purpose, ignoring Keith attempts at communication. "They're not responding to surrender requests," Nix continued. "They're not taking prisoners. They're simply destroying everything, Keith. Contact the human fleet commander," Vex ordered. "We need to negotiate." "Sir, we've tried. They're not answering." For the first time in his long military career, High Admiral Vex felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Admiral Brookie stood on the bridge of the Retribution, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. Around him, his crew worked with cold efficiency, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. "Admiral," reported Captain Davis from the communication station, "the KE flagship is trying to contact us." "Ignore them, Brooks," replied without emotion. "Continue the attack." On the main screen, he could see the KE military base on Kepler 438b burning. Human plasma cannons had turned the once mighty fortress into a sea of fire and twisted metal. "Sir," called Lieutenant Torres from the tactical station, "Fleet Group 7 reports complete destruction of the KE shipyards at Wolf 359. Fleet Group 12 has eliminated the government complex on Proxima Centauri B." Brooks nodded. Everything was going according to plan. For 8 months, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had studied every piece of data from Jake Miller's final transmission. They had analyzed the KE's tactics, their technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. The K were powerful, but they had one fatal flaw. They were predictable. Admiral Dr. Martinez's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Our intelligence teams have confirmed the locations of all major KE hibernation facilities. The majority of their leadership is still sleeping." "Perfect," Brooks replied. "Continue with Phase 2. Across 17 star systems, human fleets moved with deadly precision. They didn't fight like other species the Kaith had encountered. There were no formal declarations of war, no attempts at negotiation, no mercy for the defeated. The humans fought like a species with nothing left to lose." Commander Zass woke to find his hibernation chamber filled with smoke. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the facility, and he could hear explosions echoing through the corridors. He stumbled out of his chamber and found chaos. Other KE officers were awakening in panic, confused and disoriented. The hibernation facility, which had been considered the safest place in K-space, was under attack. "What's happening?" Zeke asked a passing technician. "Humans, sir. They've found all our sleeping facilities. They're destroying everything." Zeke ran to the nearest command center and found a scene of utter devastation on the monitors. Human ships surrounded their facility, methodically destroying every defensive system. But what horrified him most was the efficiency of the attack. The humans weren't acting out of blind rage. They were surgical, precise, and absolutely ruthless. "Sir," called out one of the technicians. "They're broadcasting something." The main screen activated, showing a human female in military uniform. Behind her, one could see the bridge of a human warship. "This is General Chen of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "Citizens of the galaxy, today you witness the end of the KT's dominion. For too long, this species has terrorized the universe, destroying entire civilizations in the name of order." The screen split to show images from across KT space. Military bases burning, government buildings collapsing, and Keth ships fleeing in panic. The Keth believed that chaos was dangerous. General Chen continued. "Today they learn what happens when chaos becomes organized." High Admiral Vex watched his empire crumble on the tactical display. In just 6 hours, the humans had destroyed centuries of KT expansion. Military bases that had taken decades to build were reduced to rubble. Fleets that had conquered dozens of species were scattered and burning. Admiral Commander Nick said desperately, "We need to evacuate. The humans are targeting this facility next." Vex looked at his second-in-command with tired eyes. "Where would we go, Nix? Look at the display. They're everywhere." It was true. Human fleets had appeared simultaneously across Kethagase, striking at targets that should have been secret. Somehow, the humans had discovered the location of every major K installation. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through," Vex ordered. A human male appeared on screen. He was older with gray hair and cold blue eyes. Behind him, Vex could see other humans working at their stations with mechanical precision. "I am Admiral Brooks," the human said. "You are High Admiral Vex." "Yes," Vex replied. "Admiral Brooks, surely we can negotiate." "No," Brooks interrupted. "You made negotiation impossible when you murdered Jake Miller's family." Vex felt his heart sink. The human demonstration on Haven Colony had been meant to intimidate Earth into submission. Instead, it had awakened something terrible. "That was a legitimate military action," Vex said weakly. "We were maintaining galactic order." "You murdered children," Brooks replied, his voice filled with controlled fury. "You recorded it. You broadcast it as entertainment. The children carried dangerous genetic traits." "Stop," Brooks commanded. "I don't want to hear your justifications. I'm calling to inform you that the Keth Dominion is ended. Your military is destroyed. Your government is eliminated. Your colonies are surrendering." Vex looked at his tactical display again. It was true. Red markers showing destroyed KE facilities covered the map. In less than 12 hours, an empire that had lasted 1,000,000 years was being wiped from existence. "What do you want from us?" Vex asked. "Nothing," Brooks replied. "This isn't a conquest. This is an extermination." The transmission ended. Captain Lisa Wong stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance, watching the last KET fortress burn. She had been Jake Miller's science officer on the Defiant, one of the few crew members who had been on shore leave when the ship was destroyed. For 8 months, she had worked with human scientists and engineers, helping them understand KE technology. For 8 months, she had prepared for this moment. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from 17K colonies." "Ignore them," Lisa replied. "Continue the bombardment." "Ma'am, they're civilians, families with children." Lisa turned to look at her officer. "Did the Kaith consider that when they murdered Emma Miller and her twins?" The communications officer fell silent. Lisa turned back to watch the fortress burn. She thought about Jake, about his wife and children, about all the species the Kath had destroyed over the millennia. "The Kath called us dangerous because we were unpredictable," she said to her crew. Today they learned the difference between dangerous and deadly. The war, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 43 hours. When it was over, the Keth Dominion no longer existed. Their military was destroyed, their government was eliminated, and their surviving population was scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Humanity had revealed technologies that no one knew they possessed. Weapons that could destroy planets. Ships that could travel faster than anything in known space. And most terrifyingly, the ability to coordinate massive military operations across multiple star systems with perfect timing. But the most shocking revelation was not technological. It was psychological. Humans had shown the galaxy what happened when a peaceful species was pushed too far. General Chen stood before the Galactic Council, addressing representatives from hundreds of species. Many of them looked at her with fear, others with respect. The Kth Dominion proclaimed that chaos was dangerous to galactic stability. She said, they were wrong. What's dangerous to galactic stability is the systematic murder of innocent families. She activated a holographic display showing the destroyed Kth Empire. Humanity is returning to our policy of peaceful exploration. We will continue to discover new worlds, make new friends, and push the boundaries of knowledge. But let this be a warning to any species that considers threatening our families. The display changed to show images of human fleets returning to their home systems. We are explorers and scientists. We are teachers and farmers. We are peaceful by nature, General Chen continued. But we remember our dead. She looked directly at the assembled alien representatives. Jake Miller died protecting this galaxy from a genocidal empire. Emma Miller and her children died because they carried his name. Today, the Keth Dominion died because they forgot that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that appears harmless. The council chamber was silent. Humanity returns to exploration, General Chen concluded. We hope to meet you as friends. We suggest you ensure that we never meet you as enemies. As the human delegation left the council chambers, Ambassador Troll of the Vegan Confederacy turned to his aide. Make a note, he said quietly. Never, under any circumstances, harm a human's family. Yes, sir, the aide replied. Should I mark that as a suggestion or a law? Try watch the human ships disappear into hyperspace. Mark it as a law of nature, he said. Throughout the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity had proven that they were not just dangerous when they were chaotic. They were absolutely lethal when they were organized. The age of human exploration had begun again. But now, every species in the galaxy knew exactly what happened to those who threatened the explorers' families. Jake Miller and his crew had been avenged. Emma Miller and her children would be remembered, and the Keth Dominion would serve as a permanent reminder of what happened when someone made the mistake of awakening humanity's fury.